You might want to start getting in shape now for that War Within gear treadmill, because it's getting a steep incline. The first issue to address is that anytime the retail gear treadmill is criticized, the Mythic Plus community peels themselves out of their gaming chairs to unite in their anthem. And the anthem goes like this: it should be meaningful to progress your character. I completely agree. Let's quickly review what gearing up entails in retail. You run a dungeon and you get a piece of gear. Yay! That piece of gear gets an upgrade track, depending on the difficulty of the content. And that upgrade track determines how high that piece of gear can be upgraded. You then do the content over and over to farm multiple different crest currencies that you need for upgrades. Once you have all the crest currency you need, you can go upgrade that gear a few eye levels. And then you just rinse, repeat. Meaningful progress indeed. There's just something about incremental number increases that gets these mythies in a frenzy. The amount of effort they'll put in just to add +3 to something would shock you. Here's something you can do that's kind of fun. If you find some Mythic Plusers in the wild, you grab one, lay them down so that they're safe, then take a calculator, put it right up to their face, and put a big number on there like 500, and just start adding 3. I promise you, by the time you hit 515, 518, they're going to be passed out from elation. That's why Blizzard has to put caps on this stuff, because if they don't, it's just too much meaningful progress at once, and it's really for their own protection. And here comes some great news for the Mythic Plus community headed into the War Within, brought to us by, this is I don't know, Robin here. He points out that in Dragonflight, to fully upgrade your Mythic Plus gear that was on Mythic Track would take about 45 runs. Now they're further increasing the upgrades needed on the Mythic Track gear to give those Mythic Raiders just a little bit more of an edge. So where it used to take 45 runs in Dragonflight, to fully upgrade your gear in War Within is going to take about 98 runs. For Mythic Raiders, 54 boss kills, up to 117 boss kills. Now, let's be fair and state that most people don't need to fully upgrade their gear, but there's a lot of players that want to have that kind of completion. They figure, well, I've already farmed the gear, I might as well upgrade it, right? Even for this very sweaty community, there's a lot of comments down here that point out that 98 runs seems a little excessive. But you can also see our boy Robin here, who, if you look up here at his accolades, has a lot of multiplication by these titles. So I think it's safe to say he has his finger on the pulse of PvE in this game pretty well. Well, he got hit with the anthem from the Mythic Plus community, right? And you can see he responds to it. For the people saying it should be meaningful to progress your character, and we've talked about what that means to them, he points out that in retail, that's just not the case. And he goes on to say that retail is Altland, and that's exactly what retail is. There's no meaningful progression. It's about leveling things up as quickly as possible and then getting your alt on the gear treadmill. Drives me crazy that every time people point out the health of retail or the retail community, they throw up, look at the number of Mythic Plus runs. Look how alive WoW is. But if you extract out the number of alts in here, this number, I don't care if you take the highest one here, 3.2 million. Do you know how many alts are in here? You know how many Mythic Plus players have 3, 4 alts? Some people run all of one role, so they run every tank, every healer, or at least the majority of them. I mean, the number of individual accounts here is a fraction of this number, wherever you decide to grab onto it. But anytime people talk about the health of retail, they throw this graph at you. But this graph doesn't mean anything until we can figure out how many individuals this actually is. Because as it was correctly pointed out by our boy Robin here, retail WoW is all about the alts. And to be fair to the Mythic Plus community and all their alts, if you scroll down through the comments under this information here, you'll see a bunch of suggestions on what they could do to make this better, such as your alts getting a multiplier, lowering the crest cost, changing the type of crest it costs, removing caps, changing it to flight stones. I'm sure they'll implement something, but one thing that gets consistently not mentioned, or at the very least undermentioned, is that they don't point out the reason for this. The whole point of this upgrade system and these mechanics is about drawing out your playtime to increase the amount of time you play so that you'll stay sub longer. That's all. That's what this whole thing is about. So you'll play for 6 to 8 weeks instead of just 2 to 3. For a lot of people, adding +3 over and over to your gear isn't that meaningful, and the actual purpose of these mechanics is simply sub retention. Now, you might buy into that, and you might find it enjoyable even to participate in these mechanics. But let's be honest, they've been added over time. There was a time when you didn't have to do any of this shit when you got your epic gear. It was just epic gear. And this is where I want to come to you. But I know there's at least a few of you as crazy as I am, and I want to invite you, my friends, to join the revolution where we will stand in defiance of the tyrannical Mythic +3 community. And our anthem shall be green, blue, purple. Enough with the eye level upgrade currency, upgrade track, currency caps, and 95 Mythic Plus runs all over some +3 bullshit. Players were plenty happy getting gear without having to upgrade it for 6 weeks. Let people get their pieces and move on to either farm their other pieces or play on their alts. Why in the hell would you add in alt-friendly features like warbands, which, by the way, isn't my warband impressive? I'm a one-man warband. You add in warbands, but then you keep the overly tedious gearing system and you make it even more tedious. Plenty of people found plenty of meaningful progression in plain old epics. As a matter of fact, and I mean actual objective fact, more people used to play those versions of retail. Stop making this game for people who never stop playing it. But it's too late now for the war within. The die's already been cast. So start preparing now, because the new GearTreadmill fires up on September 10th, and according to our boy Robin, it's gonna be a doozy. But while you're waiting for your second job to start, I want you to remember. Remember that time when you ran a dungeon or a raid and you got that lucky drop. And for the rest of that patch or tier or whatever, you were going to have that epic weapon or shield or trinket. No upgrades, no eye level shit. You just got the gear you were after. Remember how good that felt? Oklahoma out. Green, blue, purple. Green, blue, purple. Green, blue, purple. Green, blue, purple.